Alright guys, it is Thursday, and so you know what that means. It's time for Live at 9:45 with me, Adam VanOrd of VanOrd's Customs. If this is your first episode, I apologize because it is a unique one. So I don't know that I need to apologize to you, but I'm going to tell you that usually it's not quite the same. So almost every week I have been able to throw together an interview with someone in our scale community. My goal is to continue doing that for the foreseeable future. However, this week it didn't happen because last week was the East Coast Scale Challenge, and I did all the stuff to get ready for that. All the planning, the packing, all of those things added up to the fact that we had a mega show at East Coast, and it was a blast. If you didn't catch that one, it's down further in this Facebook feed. I haven't gotten a chance to upload it to YouTube yet, and I'm not sure that I will tonight. But a lot went into that, and so I left that weekend super pumped up and immediately hit my first week back to school. I am a teacher, and it's important for you to know that this week has been a whirlwind of work. So there was a big shift in what I've been doing as far as my personal life, and so therefore I didn't have a guest lined up this week, and I decided to do a Q&A session. However, it continues to be an increasingly unique situation based on the fact that someone who was very instrumental in helping me at the beginning of the Live at 9:45 stuff, someone that was very instrumental at the beginning of helping me at the beginning of the Live 9:45 stuff is finally available to spend some time talking to me on camera here. And I will be doing a little short mini interview inside of this Q&A session that I have going on, so on and so forth. So I posted up a couple days ago, asked for people to post questions on a feed. I will be going into that, but I will also be watching the feed here and scrolling up and down, hopefully to catch most of what you guys ask here, and I will do the best that I can at answering the questions as they go. If you do have questions, hold on to them for a second and don't ask them until I'm ready for some questions to be asked, especially if they pop up. I don't want to miss them, guys. I want to answer your questions because I spend every week asking people questions. I'm ready to answer some. All right. I used the wand. Yes, I did. All right. So again, this is going to be a unique one because I don't often address comments as they come in. Boom, boom, boom. But because of the way this week is structured, it will be a little more of that Q&A feel, that give and take back and forth between me and those of you who are out there watching. If you would, though, I would totally appreciate from the 22 of you I have right now, thank you, by the way, to go ahead and just share this up on your favorite group. That would be amazing. It tends to bring more people in and spark some more conversation in what's going on. So before I begin all of the things that I have planned for tonight, I want to talk to you a little bit about last weekend. So last weekend was the East Coast Scale Challenge, and I owe a couple of shout outs to some stuff that went on. So first off, I want to talk about the event as a whole. It was a great event. It's probably one of my favorites of the year, and it come together, and it's a very scale, close-knit community, and it's a blast. I had a great time. I feel like Matt and Ed did a great job of putting it on. Bobby Mack was instrumental in what went on as far as all of that stuff. And additionally, they were nice enough to let me do Live at 9:45 from the East Coast Scale Challenge. Although it didn't upload live, unfortunately, due to internet quality, it did upload throughout the weekend. And so therefore, you can go back and check out that live show. I have no idea how many guests I had on, because I literally just kept picking them out of the crowd and bringing them up and asking them questions. So it's worth a view. There will be people you've seen before, people you've never seen before. It was a good time. Haas Pickett was there, and he definitely came up and asked and answered some questions, and it was a great time, guys. I really enjoyed that format, and it was incredibly interesting because usually it's just me talking to my phone right now, and if you were at East Coast, you'll know what I'm talking about. I just have this rig with a microphone and my cell phone, and out there were like people, and so it was hard to stay focused and do all of it, but it was a blast. I genuinely enjoyed it. No pictures, please. I'm super confused by that statement, but okay. So additionally, I do want to address this guy right here behind me. So last weekend at East Coast Scale Challenge, my family was with me for the first time ever going to a big event like that, and it was unique, but it was a blast. And so my son ran in kids class, and he is 3. He had a good time doing it, and he ended up going to bed before the drawings of the prizes and such. So I had his ticket in my hand and my ticket in my hand, and I kept them separate because, you know, why not? Well, Gunner, my son, won a sawback. So I've been working on building that. Some pictures will come out of that. I want to do some special things for him and have him have that as his like first real truck. He has the Red Cat, and it looks kind of scale, but this one it'll be scale. And so the goal is I hooked him up with some Voodoo tires that I purchased last weekend that he's going to put under it so that it would fall into the class 1 rule set, so that if he's ever at an event and there's no kids class, he can get chucked right in class 1, because that would be the most reasonable courses, and he can get out there, run, and have a good time. And that's kind of my goal with all of that. So I owe a huge shout out to Hobby Express. They're a local hobby shop out in this reasonably close to me area, about Cranberry, so it's like 2 hours from me. And they're the ones actually that donated that kit, and it's amazing to have them donate things like that and be able to utilize that in some way to I guess bring my child more joy in this hobby and have fun in that manner. I have enough trucks. I can't keep them all together anyway, so now that he'll have that one, I'm gonna have even more headaches. So good times. But all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to answer the first couple questions. They were both posed by Steve Martin, so Steve, thank you for asking these questions. And then I'm going to bring on my special guest. I saw that they're in here, so I'll search through, I'll bring them on, I'll talk to them, and then I'll do all the other stuff about me, because really what I started the show for was to highlight all these other people. It wasn't about me. So we'll go from there. Do I have a cat? No, I don't have a cat, actually. I've had cats my entire life, but we don't have one currently. We just have a dog. His name is Mumford, and he is a mutt, and he's quite spastic, actually. So what made me start doing the interviews? And I think that's a great question to start with. That's what Steve Martin's first question was. It's the first question in my feed. And when I saw that, I was like, yes, I want to answer that one. So do I have a unicorn? Yes, I keep him in the closet. So that I just realized how that sounded. That's great. Anyway, so what made me start doing these interviews was this. At Christmas time, the Ohio Scale Gurus were doing giveaways that were live. So they'd get on, they would do live giveaways, they'd have some chats and whatnot, and then they'd give stuff away. And so it started out with like, they'd get together as a group, and so they'd all be like sitting next to each other behind their live feed and talking to the camera, talking to the group of people at like inside of the Gurus page. And while they're having this conversation, they do their giveaway. And I was like, man, that's super cool. Like, they're next to each other, they're having a good time, it's a nice vibe. And so then one of their giveaways, they finally did like a joined together live feed, and I went, that's possible? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And I went, something in my head clicked. And so the reason that it clicked actually stems from teaching for me. And so in teaching, I teach a class called Character Education. So it's focused on character traits and how you apply them in your life. And with that being the case, I chose, inside of that, I teach this lesson where I would reach out and like look at TED Talks and such. And the one TED Talk that I landed on was this thing called StoryCorps. So StoryCorps is an actual thing. If you go online, you can Google it up. It's really, really cool. So StoryCorps was this project that was put together, and they decided that they were going to provide places for people to interview people who were close to them. And that's originally where this idea of interviewing people came from for me. So they put it in like the New York City subway. They gave them a booth with some sound recording equipment, and it was like mothers and sons and like husbands and wives, and like they'd interview each other across the table. They'd have a guy that would like run the sound recording thing, and then their conversation is archived into like the National Library of all of that stuff. And if you go to StoryCorps, their story's amazing and you can check it all out. And so that's where the interviewing stemmed from. And so when I saw that you could get two people on what's going on, I realized, man, what if I interviewed people in the hobby and began creating an archive where anybody who's new and doesn't know these people, has never gotten a chance to meet them, maybe it would make them more approachable. So the whole purpose of all of this live at 9:45 stuff had zero to do with me and was everything to do with bringing attention to the positive influences in our hobby who are doing great things and supporting our hobby to no end. And I also wanted to, and still intend to, use this as a platform to take new people in the hobby who are doing exciting things and lift them up and show them off. Like, I have one person in mind who I've been poking and prodding to bring on, and they're like, I'm a nobody. I don't do, like, I'm not on part with any of those people. And it's never been about how big your name is or how small your name is. Are you doing something cool? Are you spreading a positive message? If you are, or you think you are, like, I'm planning on switching it up a little bit to make it a little bit easier on my end. If you're if you're doing any of those things, reach out to me and I'd be more than happy to screen whether or not I want to bring you on. And it's not that I don't like you if I don't bring you on. I'm just trying to create a very specific message in our hobby, and I'm not dissing anybody. All right, secondly, if I could interview anyone, RC or not, who would it be and why? That is a super hard question, and that one also came from Steve. So anyone that I could interview, RC or not, and why, I do have an answer for that, and I wasn't going to say anything about it, but I am, and it's very personal to me. I would interview my grandfather, and so I had intentions to do that, and it never happened. I had it all set up, I wrote down the questions, and I never got there. And so that one's not going to be a possibility, but inside of the hobby, there are, honestly, I've hit most of the people on my list, and every time that I come around to another one, people keep saying yes. So I'm interviewing the people that I want to interview in this hobby. And there are people out there that I don't know about yet that I want to interview. So please bring that info to me. All right, I would love to interview all of you. So I'm going to shift it up. I'm going to take some of the spotlight off of me because that's what this whole show is about, and I'm going to bring on my special guest. And again, this person went out of their way at the very beginning of all of this to help me. I didn't honestly know him very, very well, and we spent hours in a secret testing group figuring out how to make all of this stuff work and jive, and make sure that my Facebook live feeds weren't interrupted, to mic my sound and make it sound better, and so on and so forth. And I know he's done some live feeds of his own, but I owe him a humongous thank you, and I told him that your invitation stands all the time from the beginning until now, and this was the first time we could link up. So I'm super excited to bring him on. I'm not even going to tell you who it is. So here we go. So bear with me as I scroll through my people who are in here. There's a lot of you in here now, so it's going to take a second to do that. And there we go. All right, so surprise guest coming in at any second. Hey, there we go. There it is.
So,
hey, how's it going?
Can you hear me okay?
I sure can.
Awesome. Having a little bit, that was the wrong, it's a pleasure to be on a show, and I'm kind of blushing because you speak so highly of me. I'm just doing what I do. I like to help out where I can.
Yeah. So the backstory really is that. Well, first off, let's tell everybody your name in case they don't know who you are and they don't realize what's going on here. So.
Well, my name is Jack. I am. I don't know how I really got into RC other than one of my friends that I used to work with. He showed up one day with an SCX-10, and he's like, "Hey, can you paint this body for me?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I used to do RC a long time ago. Yeah, I can paint. I can handle that." And he shows up, and we get this little mulch pile around back, so we end up doing laps around it. I'm like, "This is cool." So, you know, this is the truck. These are the trucks I wanted to build when I was 12 and 14. Not the Grasshopper, not the Nico Fox, or, you know, the trash that we had growing up. And it was, you know, a slow 4-wheel drive, fully locked, goes where you point it kind of truck. And I'm like, this is great. And when he first showed up, it was, we would take, he's the kind of guy who was like, here, drive it. And
Oh yeah.
Yeah, do your worst. You're not going to break it. Just, I don't care. Do your worst. He's that kind of friend, right?
Yeah.
And so that happened. And as I started getting into it, he starts making all these suggestions like, oh man, we need to add lights and LEDs and do all this other weird stuff. And I'm like, no. Extra lights are just going to kill the battery, That's
Right.
Slowly I came around, and somehow I got into scratch building, well, odds and ends, little trinkets and stuff, Like, for example, I built one of the first. It's changed hands a few times, but one of the first trucks that I had was the Ascender.
Yeah.
And I did a couple trades for that, and it came to me as a kit. So I put it together, and I ran just all black, and I made it look, with a couple external scale accessories. I made it look like the 1980s Shinsei Mountain Man. If anybody knows that, they're as old as I am, if not older. I won't reveal your age because reasons.
Yeah.
But so I made it look like that, and then I started building interiors, and I built the gas can, a jerry can for the backside of it, and so the same dude that got me into it, he comes over, he's like, dude, all these little accessories you're making, you're like the headquake of building scale accessories. And Adam, that was a boost I needed to get me into my first scale full-on truck build.
Right.
That was.
I've got a statement on here that says show and tell. So I have my fingers crossed, and I'm hoping you've got something sitting next to you so they can see why I've got you going on here. So.
All right. So my claim to fame is probably the one that's been in 2 print magazines and 1 online magazine. I think it's been Todd Henderson. If you're watching, I think you've featured this truck before.
Mm-hmm.
You get a good, nice look at my goatee as I
oh yeah,
bring this one up. Some people may remember this took 3 weeks. Let me remember the timeline. It was like 3 weeks to design in CAD so that it could be printed, and it took an additional, I think, week to print all the parts. Hey, Michelle, good to see you here. And assembly took, I don't know how long, but can you see the numbers on a Speedo?
I mean, the light isn't really our friend right now, but it's all good.
True. But this used to be a Slick Rock.
Okay.
And, don't tell this one, but there may be another one coming. Maybe a little different color. So it's all Slick Rock running gear, and Viterra is going to love me after this episode. Hopefully they'll bring back the Slick Rock. So hashtag bring back Slick Rock. It's about as full interior as you can get for a CJ on a true 110 scale. Brake line for the roll bar, Sarah, of course you got to have Sarah Connor, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
I got a question asking, did you the body's 3D printed then, correct?
Most of the body panels are 3D printed. Some of the floor pan was done later in, traditional scratch building style. like
Yeah.
the mirrors and stuff like that. The little oh crap bar.
Hmm.
Trying to say PG.
Yeah.
It's those are scratch built. The heater vents up at the top. If you've ever had a Jeep, you know that the heater vents, and also these little plugs up at the top. Maybe those are the access points for the mechanics to get to the linkage on the windshield wipers.
Yeah.
Um, so this one is a very good combination of scratch build and 3D print,
Yeah.
and it blows my mind that so many people actually think so highly of this. Um, and then also on that same note, that so many people think so low of it because it's scratch printed.
Well,
Um,
so let's talk about 3D print stuff for a second. I have a question on here that asks, how do you get it so smooth? Like, you can't see printer lines. Like, how did you how do you pull that off? Because that's an area that we haven't talked about at all on the show yet, and it's a
well,
nice little bit of tech that anybody watching who's looking at a 3D printed body may be able to apply.
I'm glad you brought that up because 3D printing is an art all in itself. So you have the prints that come out good that you don't have to worry about, and they're just beautiful, right? For the most part, you're going to have layer lines in your 3D prints. And there are a couple different ways you can approach that. One is get your bottle of acetone and then you paint the acetone directly over to ABS, which is what I use, and it helps to smooth everything out. You sand it down, paint it again, sand it down. So like everything else, there's a lot of sanding involved.
Oh yeah.
Um, that was the method I primarily used on this build. There are other methods where you take acetone, little strips of ABS, and you melt them into the acetone, and it makes like a little slurry. Then you can
Gotcha.
take that and then paint it on, and you can make it any thickness you want, and it'll either lay flat or it'll have ridges, extra material for the sanding process.
Right. All right. Yeah, no, so I think that that's one of the things that shies a lot of people away from 3D printed stuff, whether it be scale accessories, motors, whatever, but specifically bodies. And so when I've looked at 3D printed bodies in the past, that's been one of the things that, like, I've gone, man, it looks good, but the print lines are everywhere, and I wonder how hard it is to get it where it needs to be. And I think you pretty much alluded to that process, man. It takes a minute.
There will be extra work. There will be extra work, at least in my experience of 3D. I see Brian is watching it. Brian Ameda, the king of scale. I see he's watching. I'm not trying to plug him. I'm not
Yeah.
affiliated. Blah blah blah. I do have some of his stuff, and let's just say he's got better printers than what I do, because some of the stuff that he sent me is, and some of the pictures that I've seen online, the resolution is far better than what I've been able to duplicate or replicate here at the house.
Yeah. So I got another question about 3D printed stuff and how you're attaching and doing the 3D printed versus like and styrene combo. Is what are you using to adhere the ABS 3D printed stuff to styrene or to itself even?
All right, my top three favorites are. I might have thrown the I might have thrown the other bottle out because it's already kicked off. But
Yeah.
any kind of stupid glue, right?
Hmm.
It's your generic go-to Bonzol to Bonzol. But I print in ABS, and I happen to know that ABS is acro something. The S stands for styrene. We'll go with
Gotcha.
that. So styrene can bond to styrene by a chemical weld,
Gotcha.
in which case we'll use either the PWS or the Plastruct. And I would.
And I'm guessing the other methods work like MEK and
Those would be more chemical, more versions of a chemical weld.
correct.
So
Yep.
what you're doing is you're loosening. All right, come on, science. 30 years ago. You're loosening the molecules on a surface and on both sides, and then you put them together, and then the molecules say, "Oh, hey, I know you. You're my friend from a long time ago,"
Right.
and then they weld. So instead of a glue, which is a chemical bond, you're using a weld agent, which actually joins the two materials together. If that
Right.
makes any
Nope,
bit of
you're
sense.
good. For all intents and purposes, we're gluing it together, and we know what glues to use, and we got it locked down and solid. So
I
here's what
see
I'm gonna
that.
do, Chuck.
Too
I'm gonna hit you
technical,
with
it's
like
answered.
I'm gonna hit you with like the 5 or 6 major questions that I hit with everybody else. All
All
right.
right, cool. Because I've been taking notes on
There you
stuff.
go. Yeah, so I'm gonna hit you with like the 5 or 6 of those. We're gonna hit some 1 or 2 other things, and then I'm gonna let you go so I can try and hit the list of the other stuff I got going on,
All
um,
right.
and we'll go from there. So let's talk about how long have you been in this hobby? You alluded to some of the beginning stuff, like you had a buddy brought you into it. How long has it been now since the beginning of all of that?
All right. So way back when dinosaurs roamed the earth,
Hmm.
there were cool cars. Team Associated put it out, like the RC10. So this is what mid 90s. Then a Kyosho had some kind of stadium truck. I had one of those. It had the mechanical speed control.
Yeah.
Um, those are cool too. I took about 10 years off, so that would probably put it, I don't know, maybe 2014 ish, when
Yeah.
my buddy came out to the house with the with his first SCX10, and then got me back into the hobby. I've been into airplanes, helicopters. I've got a DJI Phantom. If it's
Yeah.
radio controlled, if it's cool or expensive, I probably have to have it. It's just a matter of time. But
So you're as
it's
addicted to it as the rest of us.
absolutely, absolutely, wholeheartedly. I've been taking a little bit of time off. I don't know why. Um, I don't want to say I'm burnt out on the hobby, but I'm just taking a back seat to see what's going on.
Hey, I
You
hear you.
know,
I hit a wall and decided I was going to do this. So,
yeah, precisely. I still get the 6x6. I think I've shown you pictures of the 6x6. It's scheduled to come out sometime eventually in
yeah,
the future.
yeah.
I still got the. Let's see if I can stand up here for a second. I still got to finish this one.
Wait, it's not
Um,
done?
nah, the lights don't work yet.
Oh,
The lights and the winch don't work yet. But this is, if you follow Vitera's page, uh, Vitera RC just featured this
yeah.
frame. You stay in frame. They just featured this on one of their pages because I happen to have a neat place to take pictures of RC cars. Um, Geez,
Right.
stay in the camera, guy. But it's just something I've been tinkering with. Incidentally, if
Yeah.
anybody has any ideas, I'm out in the shed right now, and insects and everything. They're 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 no good for anybody, especially not me. The mud daubers have started to make a nest. I've evicted them. However, if anybody has any good ideas on how to do that without destroying the paint and the detail and the weathering that I put on there, thanks for the
Right.
flowers, guys. I'm all ears. So,
Right. Awesome, man. Well, I freaking love that truck. I can tell you that. The fact that it's a tow truck, it just, I mean, all the working stuff back there and making it all work and function. Um, I think there's probably one down the line for me, but not for a long time, I don't think. Uh, so let's talk. Are you a big tire fan, small tire fan?
small tire, real world, class zero, just, you know, as true to scale as possible, as almost, as factory. I've never had a truck that had, 40-inch tires on it. So I want something that I can relate to out on a trail that just, it looks like something that I drove yesterday or I drove to work or, daily
Gotcha.
driver kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. Um,
Um,
are you brushed or brushless fan, man? Like,
I knew
where's
you
the
were
goal
going
in that?
there. I
Oh yeah.
I almost, yeah, I knew you were going there, and they both have their advantages. Uh, all of my trucks are brushed, except for oh, let go. Except for this guy right here.
Yeah.
This is brushless. It's a purple motor or something. Anyways, it's an Eiger Pro ESC. I forget which I forget which motor's up there, but it's 100% censored brushless, and
Yeah.
I love it for. Well, this started off as a kit Trailfinder 2, so
Yeah.
it's got the 2-speed trans and stuff like that. But the brushless system, it doesn't have in this truck. It doesn't have the stopping brake that I'm used to in the brush trucks, right?
Right.
So um, that just not having that holding power, the holding, stopping, the hill brake. If anybody wants to see what there, that's what I was talking about. Right there, it is. The yeah.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, it doesn't seem to have the hill brake that a brush motor does. And on some of my trails, it's not a deal breaker, but it's something you got to keep in the front of your mind that this is
Right.
not going to stop when you want it to stop. Um, Now, on the other hand, I have also used that to my advantage, whereas some of my brushed trucks, when you let up the throttle and you let off and it wants to tip,
Yeah.
uh, this you can put in second gear and it just kind of coasts on down.
Gotcha.
And you don't have that frontward flippy syndrome,
Yeah.
which is
No,
never good.
I I've had that syndrome. It's a good time sometimes.
David,
Especially
it
in
might be a Novak. It might be a Novak.
yeah.
Good call on that.
So that's a very real possibility. I would say they're one of the more prevalent purple motors that I would know of, but I don't know. I've never
I,
had one, just seen
I
them.
could be remembering stuff from 3 builds ago. I don't know.
Fair
I
enough.
I've blinked since then. So
Um, so I know that you are one of the main moderators. I'm not sure how many there are on the True Scale thing. So I definitely want to ask this question of you, and I've asked it of a lot of people. Are you a forums guy or are you a social media, Facebook, Instagram kind of guy?
I'm trying to get away from social media. Um, Social media, in my opinion, just seems to carry the negativity, the trolls, and the worst of the internet. And I'd like to figure out how to change that, and how to bring the internet back around to where it could be, because the potential, you know, for what we're doing right now, we're all interconnected through this digital blessing, but it just, in my opinion, it's being used incorrectly.
Hmm.
Um, Now, a couple years back, and that's where a majority of my inspiration came from, was through Headquake and I'm That Guy and Pardon My Noob, was from
Oh yeah,
RCC. And the only reason I got away from RCC is because Photo Bucket ruined it.
yep. And that seems to be the
Um,
common answer. It's just a bummer.
yeah, it really is. I think they wanted to cash in or try to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
I can't blame them. I can't blame them.
No.
But that to me is probably going to be free third image hosting is going to be the death of the forums.
Yeah. Um, so I guess, man, where I'm at right now is there something that I'm missing that you want to get out there about you, about what's going on with you, and about where you're at with the hobby, um, before I get moving in on all the other stuff?
You know, there's so many people out there that I want to meet. You being one, because every time that we have talked, we just seem to gel and
Yeah.
talk for hours and hours on end
Yep.
uh, on topics that would probably bore the masses. But there are other peoples out there that I would really enjoy to meet. I have met a few people, um, mutual friends. I'm sure you know that you meet them in person and you're like, dude, this guy's just as cool in person as he is online. We
Oh
had
yeah.
lunch together, and Scott, I didn't see you sign in yet, but if you're watching, uh, I still talk about that day. It was a great day. I hope you
Yeah.
liked the barbecue as much as I did. Um, but I've not made it to any sanctioned events. And short-term goals, that's one of the things that I would like to do. I would like to make it out there to like K&K, meet the Davidsons, or one of the events
Yeah.
here kind of on the Midwest or on the East Coast.
Right.
Um,
Um, I would recommend K&K or East Coast Scale Challenge, and I'm not knocking any of the other events. Those just seem to be
sure.
the ones where the majority of the people kind of all like will drop everything and show up to. So it's definitely cool to go meet and hang out with everyone, and that's the high that I'm coming off of from the weekend is that I got to hang out with all the people I talked to all year and see one time a year. So
No doubt, no doubt. So you spent time with GCM up there, yeah?
absolutely, yep.
You get
So I
nice,
mean I
nice.
was I hung out with Chris and Dana. I spent time talking to Brian Almeida. I spent time talking to Michael Blazer. I mean, I can name all the people, the normal crew of people I hang out with at regular events, especially the RC Addict guys and all that whole crew. But I mean, it's uh, even if you don't want to compete and that's not your thing, going out to the event and meeting the people is where it's at. So
And that's, I think, what I'd feel like I would do. I'm just gonna maybe show up with a truck, drive it for shiggles, and that's that. I'm not gonna compete for
yeah,
the goal of winning. Just to go have fun and maybe consume an adult beverage with the guys that we've known for years but never met face to face.
yeah, yep.
So
Someone else mentioned USTE, and I think that's a great one too. The Ultimate Scale Truck Expo. I've not been there, but I mean, that's I think more what that's centered around than the like competing and all that.
nice, nice.
So, all right,
Hey,
man.
show
Well,
up,
if you
Mark
don't have anything
DNF.
else,
I do. I actually, if you got a couple minutes,
yep.
I got a couple questions, maybe comments for you, because
Oh, sweet.
I'm gonna
You're
flip the
flipping it
script,
on
dude.
me. I see
I'm
what's
gonna
going
flip the
on.
script, bro. All right, let me wet my throat if you don't mind,
Yeah.
kids. Just get a drink of water.
Yes.
Water is good for you. So, first and foremost, I understand you're an educator, and thank you for everything that you do because I think educators are underappreciated in today's society. That a lot of people don't really realize what it is that you give and possibly how little you get out of it. So, thank you for doing
Yeah.
that, Adam. Um,
Yeah. Thank you.
Secondly, what in the world inspired you to do the scale backdrops that you're doing? Those are cool as frig.
Yeah. So, that's actually one of the questions inside of all this other stuff that I was going to answer. So it's a perfect
So
question. It
you're gonna
lines
get to
up
that
perfectly.
later?
Yeah, well, no, I'll do it now. But that
All
came from
right.
someone else and whoever else it was as well. I did see your question. I was intending on answering that, and so the answer to that question is not as glorious as it seems. I have to give a huge amount of credit to that to Ryan Kornmesser because for a long time when I started printing the signs and all of that, Ryan said, Man, I just want something to take a picture behind my truck so I don't have to take a shot on my bench. Like, print me some trees or like work with the print shop. Like, this is what I want. Just print it for me. And so if you ask him, I put it off for a very long time, and I chose to because it wasn't ready. It didn't look good. It wasn't up to the standard that I was hoping for, and that's why you haven't seen any other ones from me. I've only done the one, and I've sat on it because I'm playing around with other stuff. Um, he he wanted something to take a picture with, and I took that idea and just ran with it. So he gets huge amount of credit. I totally owe that to him. But when it came to finishing it out, making it work, making sure that it looked good with the truck, coming up with all of the ways to get it where it needs to be, that's where I kind of took it and ran with it.
Nice, so, very nice. Ryan Kornmesser is actually very prominent in the RC community. I see his. I know he's got. Was it RC Addict?
Yep, RC
I think
Addict
it is.
stuff for sure. Yep.
Yeah, he does a lot in the community.
Started, yep. I remember when Ryan started RC Addict, he came to me and he's like, "Hey man, I think I'm gonna like start this RC Addict thing, and so hey, we have some shirts. Here's one." And I was like, "Okay." And so like when he started the Facebook group and then all the business stuff, like so I've known Ryan since when all of that started, so it's pretty cool to see it all grow.
Since before it was cool. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's really cool to see.
If you had to pick a favorite build or a favorite builder, could you? And who would it be?
That's out there in the community right now. I can tell you that I will pick, and it's not that anybody else isn't doing a phenomenal job. It's just this person totally jives with what I'm all about. And so I owe a huge shout out to I'm That Guy, Matt Kett. And so
no doubt.
The last 2 years, Matt has taken things way off the charts out in left field. So the half track and then the steam truck, those are the types of things that I'm all about. Make it different, make it something that no one else has and no one else has done, and like really, really dive in and go for it. And that's why it would be my selection. There's so many people I follow, amazing, cool builds. I follow all the Scott Lempert stuff. I'm following people left and right. And I follow for different reasons. Like Donnie Branham has some of the craziest, like he's building bodies that are like, so they're hollow in the center with like airplane ribbing so he can save weight and make an incredibly scale styrene build, lightweight and semi-competitive, if not competitive.
Oh, no doubt.
Just the amount of innovation in the hobby is so crazy. So I'm following everybody, but the reason
Scott, I got to tell you, Scott is a daggone machine. I mean, he's just pumped one after the other, and you just got to ask yourself how.
I don't know.
And how can you do it so fast? I don't think he has a full-time job. I think that's all he does is RCs. He says he does a full-time job. I don't believe him, but. Donnie Bram. I think we featured him on the banner a couple times. He's got that. He's got some awesome builds. There's been a couple people who frequently post in the True Scale RC group that are very talented builders, and I like seeing all the builds. I like seeing every morning. Whenever I wake up, sometimes it's way too friggin' early because I got to keep the lights on. I try to go through and pick one for the banner so that everybody can see what's out there, and we can all be inspired. We can all learn and do that. So.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I appreciate the ever-changing banner. It's awesome. So
sometimes it's
even just scrolling down through and picking one, like that's a lot of work in itself. So
true, very much true.
Time, so
awesome.
Yeah. All right. So
well, Adam, I appreciate you having me on. I think I'm done. You got on what like? Well, do you have a favorite build that somebody's put out there? Something that was like your all-time pinnacle, your unicorn? Someday you hope you can build something that is similar to what this person built over here.
So I don't have a. I want to build a similar one. I have like. So I would love to have either one of Matt's builds. Like I drool all over them. They're amazing. But at the same token,
Indeed, the half
um,
track. Yeah,
I don't want to build one because I want to be different. So I'm
sure.
always searching for something that other people don't have. Now I do have some trucks that are very like similar to other stuff. There, like I do have a couple Jeeps and whatnot, but I'm always looking at that next like, what can I do that I have never seen before? Because that's what drives me. I don't want
And
something that everybody else has.
it's partially the reason. And I wish Photo Bucket hadn't have ruined the RCC experience, because
Yeah,
that was part of the reason that I made the CJ5 in true 110 scale, because it is so small. I
right.
mean, a slick rock fits it perfect. We've all,
Yeah, it's tiny.
yeah. I mean, a real CJ5 can park on a sheet of 4x8 plywood and have room to spare.
Right.
The wheelbase is shorter. It's 84.5 inches or something like that. And a sheet of plywood's 96.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Um, but that was one of the things that actually kind of, what makes you mad about the hobby?
I don't get mad anymore. So I went on this thing
Well,
where I had
let me
this
let me
kick.
let me can let me refine my question. What
Yeah.
what makes you not mad, but what do you wish vendors would do differently to sell their products, or what just bugs you about the scale industry?
honestly, honestly, there isn't anything that really bugs me. The only thing out there that bugs me is the negativity, which is why I'm stressing so
True.
hard and pushing so hard toward doing my absolute best to keep it positive. Because between me and everybody on the internet, last weekend I had one of my worst performances ever. Like driving, like my scores were not good, and not ever, but in a very long time, and it wasn't
Okay.
typical of me. I was furious at that time. Like I was struggling. I kept my composure. I kept things together. I did start complaining a little bit, and so I'm sorry to David Capek because he got an earful and it had nothing to do with him, and I was just complaining. It didn't, but he didn't need to hear all of that because I was just whining basically. But anyway,
It
um,
happens to the best of us.
anyway, um, I think that the negativity, like I squashed mine as quick as I could. And so if everybody just like focuses on the fact that it's supposed to be fun and it's supposed to be a good time, like I had a blast last weekend. Drove like garbage, which is totally not my norm. But I had a blast and I talked to people and I made connections and I just had a really good time, and it didn't have to be all about that. It didn't have to be
That's
all of that
awesome.
stress. And so as soon
That's
as I got out
awesome.
of my own head and made it not about all that stress, it was way more fun.
Now, well, the reason I asked that question is because I was starting to go off on a tangent, and I wanted to see how you felt about it. But when a big reason I started building true to scale trucks was because the vendors aren't doing it. They call it 110 scale because of whatever reason they have. They slap it in a box and send it down the road, and people buy it. But when
Yeah.
you actually pull numbers on it, you get this Jeep, which is the same size as a full-size truck, and we all been to Walmart, been in the parking lot. We all know they're not the same size, same width, same length, and that was partially inspiration why I set out on a crusade to build
Yeah.
the true to scale CJ5,
Yeah.
and I accidentally found out that people liked it.
Yeah. And everybody has their own thing that drives them in the hobby, and that's why I always ask, almost always ask scale builders, and I didn't ask you, but I'm gonna know. I already know the answer before I even ask. Um, I always ask people if they go by specific measurements or they go by what looks good, and so I'm a what looks good kind of guy. I don't go by specific measurements because as long as it's good enough to trick the eye and make it look good, that's good enough for me.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
And
You're
so
100% right.
when it comes down to the actual number, that part doesn't get me. It gets a lot of people, and there are a lot of people who are very focused on that number, but that's not. It's just not in my personality to worry about the number.
And that's good because I can vouch for being overly OCD at sometimes. Um, However, I will say on the last couple builds I've done, I box them in, I rough them in with the solid numbers,
Yep.
and then at some point it just kicks over to that looks good. It's good to the eye, so we're good.
Yeah. Yep. So I mean it's a if it looks good to me, it looks good to you. Most likely when you take a picture it's gonna look good, and if you see it in real life it's gonna look good. I don't see many people running around at comps or at get-togethers with rulers. So
This is
they're
true.
taking a look at the truck. They're not measuring them.
Well, having said that, the next comp I go to, I'm gonna bring the calipers. I have them just to.
There you go. Come measure my stuff because it doesn't match up at all. So
No, it's just an
all right.
arbitrary scale. So,
Yeah.
Adam, I appreciate you having me
Absolutely.
on there. If you
Yeah.
or any of your viewers right now have any questions, I'll hang out for a second. I've got nowhere to
Yeah.
be tomorrow.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'll give them a second. I'll answer a couple things. If they don't have anything for you, then I'll just totally move on. And then I mean I can let you go. You're like even 9:45's late when you're getting up at 3:45. So I totally get it.
no, I'm off tomorrow.
Oh,
Today,
sweet.
yeah. I don't want to get off into tangents and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But
Apache
um,
body. So Ryan's looking for an Apache body. Somebody makes one. Uh, and it's 3D printed, and I think it looks pretty stinking good. I just can't remember who it is. I feel like it's either the Mick Gould guy or there's another guy, and they were like in cohorts for a while. But Ryan, if you shoot me a message, I'm sure with a little bit of internet search, a little bit of Facebook searching, I can find it. I know it's out there. So I don't know for sure about 61 pig nose. I'm not a numbers guy style guy. I'm like a hey, I found this weird truck online and I built it kind of guy. So
yeah.
um let's see. So Ryan asked me like a whole slew of questions over here, and so I'm gonna choose to answer one now and then come back to them all.
I
Ryan,
had I had that highlighted. I was going to run down a majority of those questions, but um, yeah, the Facebook decided to crash on the phone, so go through a lot of the
yeah.
questions he had. I thought they were great questions.
Yeah. No, and so I'm gonna skip the sponsor ones and talk about those later. And there's a reason why I'm going to do that. And I have very specific beliefs in sponsorship stuff. And I yes, I am sponsored and I have to be careful about how I talk about it, but I will talk about my beliefs in it because it's not gonna hurt any of my sponsors' feelings because they know how I feel. But I want to talk about his first main question, and is how do I come up with builds? So for me, a build starts when I see something cool. That's it. Like there isn't any other way that I come up with builds. So the story behind the Spacicorn and why it is purple and pink and has a unicorn is Sorka made me frustrated when they told me I couldn't paint. I couldn't have clear wheels because I had to have paint. So I decided I would make the most obnoxious paint job I have ever seen. Just to be like, if you tell me I have to have paint, you're still not going to like my paint. And so that's
I
why I
like
have
it.
a unicorn pink and purple truck.
I like it.
That was the whole story behind that truck. The Tri-Van comes from, I was searching for weird stuff to build, literally searched weird vehicles, led me down some crazy internet wormhole where I was searching like these crazy big wheel things and like stuff that had like articulating body parts. And then I happened to stumble on three-wheel vehicle searches, and I was like, man, if you could only find a three-wheel vehicle that had two wheels in the front and one in the rear, because I know that one in the front won't work for what we're doing, it would be great. So I started that search, and I landed on it, and by pure happenstance, I was like, man, I'm building this. I don't care what I have to do. I've never seen this before. I'm building it. End of story. So most of my builds start with some kind of Google Images wormhole search where I just go completely off the rails and spend 2 hours looking for the weirdest thing I can find that is a vehicle.
Nice. Now
I don't know too many people that do that, but that's my thing.
Most of my trucks are sentimental. So my dad has a 1980 CJ, which is what the kind of half of what the red Jeep is about. The other half is my grandmother had a red Renegade. I think it was like a 72 or something. It was or 52 maybe even, but it was old. The yellow Dodge. The story behind that is in 94, 95, somewhere around in there. I was kind of young, and my dad was into bicycling, so we decided we were going to ride our bicycles from Northeast Ohio all the way down to Marietta, Ohio, which is southern Ohio. It was 220, 230 some odd miles in a 2.5-day weekend. And I think it was the first, maybe the second trip out there. You know, we had ridden 100 miles on a bicycle. We were dog tired, just wanted to go to sleep. And we finally made it to the little campground. And then we heard wind of this little steakhouse a couple miles outside of town. So we ride there too. And we're riding across these fields, just nothing but lightning bugs, fireflies, either side. It's the most beautiful, coolest thing you ever could have seen.
Right.
In that parking lot was this Dodge truck. It was red, had a roll bar, dressed up, about 1980s, late 70s, early 80s body style. And my dad said, you know, that's probably one of the first Dodge trucks I've seen like that I actually liked. You know, 20 some odd years later, I remembered that, and it just that was the Dodge I had to build.
Right.
And different color, but it was step side bed. I didn't go with the roll bar. I some reason I chose to go farm truck with the diesel tank in the back so I could hide the battery, because, you know, like you, I wanted to be different. And you know, it kind of morphed from there. So that was the inspiration, and then it created a little life of its own.
Yeah.
The 68 GMC, well, that's just I haven't ordered tags for it yet, but that's just Dukes of Hazzard. That pure and simple.
Right.
Season 1, episode whatever, that was Cooter's tow truck when when they originally went and got the General Lee or something like that. That's all it was.
Gotcha. So as I'm leafing through my questions that I've got over here, man, I'm gonna ask. So I'm gonna ask you this one first, and then I think I'm gonna let you go so I can motor through these, because I have school tomorrow. So if I don't get focused
I think you're getting a list.
I'm gonna be up late. So as far as this, I'm going to ask you this question, then I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to answer it, and then I'm going to motor through all my questions over here so that I can get to bed. But when it comes to it, if you could build any full-size vehicle, like if you could own in full size any of the vehicles you've built in like scale world, what one would it be, and why would you pick that one?
Well, geez, that's I don't know. I don't know. Maybe the one that I haven't built yet, because the one that's not being, or the one I'm not working on, you know, the 6x6. I think you're privy to that. I want to try to keep that ultra top secret.
There you go.
I don't know, man. That's a tough one, because yeah, I can't answer that. I don't know.
All right.
I don't know.
So I stumped you, and now
Yes.
I'm gonna say good night, man, and then now I'm gonna motor through these questions, and I have an answer. So stick around.
All right.
You're gonna want to see it.
Absolutely. Do it to it.
All right. Thank you for being on. I'll catch you later, man.
All right. My pleasure. Later.
Yeah. See ya. All right. Okay, so back to the questioning, and so this was I think one of the harder questions that I got asked, and I know why Jack was stumped because it's a really like if you haven't thought about it, put you on the spot kind of question. So Kevin Pawlowski asked me if I could have a full size version of any one of my scale trucks, which one would it be? And I added the why. So I would pick the Tri-Van. It's not that my other stuff isn't cool, and it's not that I wouldn't like it. It's that I've never seen one. I've seen pictures online. There are so few of them out there that to have something that unique, be able to just like hop in it, go run to the grocery store and snag some groceries or something, throw them in the back of the bed there, or actually like use it and drive it around. I feel like that would just be out of this world cool. Super slow, no power, single wheel drive, like basically a useless truck, but it would just be a good time. And I think that people, I think it would spark a lot of conversation with people, and I really enjoy that aspect of car culture. And so catching someone off guard, have them ask you about your vehicle, spark conversation, make connections, build relationships with the people around you, that kind of stuff. So that's why I would pick that one. However, a very close second would be Space Corn because how cool would that be to go like full size version of that and run the wheels off of it? All right, what else do I have over here? And guys, you can begin asking questions if you want. I'll try and catch them as they go down through the screen. Uh, so from Adam Spearman, I had a what's my favorite build out there, which I kind of answered because Jack's touched on that a little bit. Where do I see the crawler scene going? I see it going up. I see it becoming more accessible to the general public. I think as much as people are not always Traxxas fans, I think Traxxas latching onto it was only a good thing because the exposure got so big. I do see it, however, going further away from actual like technical gate running competitions to more of scale events where people are getting together, having a good time, running a bunch of gates in the woods, hanging out with their buddies. I see a bigger draw toward that than the actual scale comp scene. Not negative toward comping, I really love it, but I see a bigger draw in that direction. Why do I not use the square wheels, I'm guessing is what you were looking for, Steve Karish. Um, the square wheels actually ended up breaking. So I had, as far as I know, the only set of square wheels. I worked with a guy out of Ohio who printed them for me. I sent him the idea. He drew me up a thing, and he sent him. He's like, "Are you sure you want this?" I said yes. The reason I don't have another set is because it took me almost 3 hours to glue tires onto them, and they were a glue-on wheel, and now they're broken. And so I may do another set, but they're cool. I proved they work, and that was the square wheel deal. Uh, there's another sponsor question. I'll answer that later. Oh, only if I use the square wheels should I get the Spacicorn, I'm guessing. I mean, I'd try it. I don't know if it'd work. So who or what got me into the hobby also came from Adam Spearman, and that's an interesting one. Ha! Nice. Steve, I'm going to answer your question in a minute. So, what or who got me into the hobby? It's kind of a weird series of events, I guess. So, I just graduated from college and I had my first teaching job, so I had like a little bit of income coming in for like the first time ever. So it was one of those, I have some money, I want to do something for a hobby, and so originally I was like, I want a monster truck. I had a cousin who had monster trucks and he'd rip them up and down the street and like backflip them off of trees, and I was like, that's super cool. And so my dad, when before I was born, was very much into flying and had a bunch of airplanes, and so the upstairs of his garage is littered with all of these like remains of these RC airplanes. And so I grew up seeing that, so RC a little bit on the brain, my cousin doing that, the reality of the fact that I couldn't afford a full-size vehicle. You pair all of those things together, and I end up looking for a monster truck that I want to bash. I stumbled across scale crawlers, and that was it. I've never even owned a monster truck. Never had one. In fact, I've barely even had a basher, and I only stick pretty much in the scale world. All right, I almost got this Steve Martin question moved up. So when I go to crawl with the local guys, what truck do I grab, and do I bring any extras? Well, I kind of have this problem where I take everything when I go. I'm a little over-prepared kind of guy. But anytime I'm going for something fun, outdoors, like run for a long time, in the woods, trail run kind of deal, I always take the truck that performs the worst. Typically, I take the Tri-Van because I don't really like competing with it because I spent so much time and effort on it that I don't want to beat it up to the point where it doesn't function anymore. I really liked that, and I really enjoy the truck. It holds together really well. It does a phenomenal job, but I feel like that's where it resides. It resides in the trail run world and not so much in the competition world. All right. Going to try and make it out to Axial Fest. It'd be great to meet and talk. From Joe Zaninga. Axial Fest is a long ways away from me. And the reality of it is, man, like that's the whole other side of the country. The amount of money I would have involved in going to Axial Fest is going to be astronomical, and I don't see it coming anytime soon. I would love to go to Axial Fest, and in fact, I was asked by Tim Samuels if I could go to any RC event around the world at no cost to me. What would it be, and who would I want to camp or room with? I would want to camp and room with my dad, and I would totally take our guy from here that's local, Sean. We tend to go to a lot of the events together, and I enjoy spending time with those guys, so that wouldn't change who I want to room with, but I would love to go to Axial Fest. It looks like a blast. It's a week-long event, lots of hanging out, not so much pressure from the competition aspect, and as much as I love competition and being competitive, I think it'd be a cool, refreshing way to have an event. Hoss Pickett says, please interview my dad. I think that would be awesome. I think it would be awesome too. I'd be glad to have him on. He knows that all he has to do is say win and come this way, and we'll do a live side-by-side interview and make it happen. If you don't know my dad, you haven't followed any of his stuff, you guys should totally like search through Facebook feed stuff that I've got going on in VanOrd Customs and on my Instagram at VanOrd Customs, because I've featured some of his builds. He has a blue rock rat. He just won Best of Show for his Class 3. It's like this orange semi. So really what that was one of my dream builds, and I'll get to his question in a little bit. But basically, I gave him all the parts and pieces to build the truck I wanted, and he built it, and he did a much better job than I would have done, and it's awesome. So GCM Adventure Series for sure. 1/10 budget for the win. Yes, 1/10 budget for sure, without a doubt. Let's see what else I got going on for questions over here, guys. Sorry, this is out of my wheelhouse of what I typically do. So what got me into making scale goodies, plates, gate markers, and stuff? The plates thing was my idea. I contacted the local print shop that I work with, and began working with them. I started making them for myself, but I have to still buy them in bulk, and so when working with them, eventually, like, I took them to a couple events, and then one year I wasn't going to do it, and someone was like, what, no plates this year? And so I just decided, hey, I'm going to do it. The gate markers were, again, they were me wanting something a little more scale than cones, a little more scale than tennis balls. As I started building in the more scale side of things, I wanted something scale. And so I did the signs, but they were diamond shaped, basically. So they were a square that was turned on its side, and the big problem with that was that the points that stick out would hit your truck when you drove under them. They worked fine, they were good. They were also too expensive because I made them out of aluminum, and so end result was they didn't perform well and they were expensive. I did just switch them so that they're narrow and tall. They look like mile markers with directional arrows, stuff you'd see on the road, and I think they photograph really well. If you look at any of the photos from the East Coast Scale Challenge, they are littered throughout it because I provided them for East Coast Scale Challenge. What else do I got going on? Whoops. Axial Fest would be cool for sure. It's always before or during KOG. Um, what the heck? I can't see all of Todd's statement. Todd, if there's a question in there, I apologize. I can't see all of it. Class 3 was awesome and got Nick's vote. I'm guessing that was my dad's. And his truck is out of this world cool, guys. Again, it's over in Instagram. It will be again here very shortly, so check that out. It's orange and it's semi, and it looks awesome. So right now I'm going to jump down and move to the question that my dad asked actually inside of the questioning. And so I think that I want to add this question to what I ask on an almost weekly basis. So the signs on Class 0 were great. Thank you, Nick Barber. That's the whole plethora of what I offer at the moment. It's the scale course markers and then the off-road sign pack, and when you pair them together, they make a very scale realistic version of something you might see. Definitely looks better than pipeline markers or tennis balls. So just trying to make things look a little better. What does my wife think of the hobby? There's a good one, because a lot of people are like, I'll ask them a question about how much, like, do they operate on a budget? And they're like, shh, don't talk about budgets. Don't tell my wife. My wife thinks they all cost $1. My wife knows everything about it. She knows every piece of all of the stuff. She's very supportive of the hobby. She doesn't like it when I leave for long events, and honestly, I can't blame her. I have a young child, so I try to keep that to a minimum and select the best ones that I can possibly get to. And then after that, as far as like building and stuff like that, I try to do that in a way that affects my family the absolute least amount possible. I'll stay up late, I'll put in crazy amounts of hours late into the evening, late at night if I'm working on a build, so that I can continue to spend the time with the family and not take away from the family time. Alright, how much? Rick Perry, how much what? I'm guessing gate markers or something like that. I'm sorry, I didn't follow what your question was referring to. So while I'm answering my dad's question, I'll go from there. So here's his question, and I think it's a great one, and I'm going to begin asking it in the future. So if you're coming on in the future, get ready, because you're gonna have to answer this question. Tell us what your dream build components would be. Chassis, axles, transmission, motor, electronics, drive shaft, wheels, tires, any other items that were forgotten. And would it be a big tire build or a small tire build? So like 4 years ago, I built the Purple Nurple for Class 3, which I no longer own that body. That has moved on to a really nice gentleman named Evan, who purchased it last weekend at East Coast Scale Challenge, and he already had it running before we left the comp. So happy and proud to sell something to someone and have them be that excited to get it on their truck. Like, that's what I'm looking for, that drive, that passion, that excitement. That was an awesome feeling. Anyway, side note. Let's talk about what I would pick. So really the thing that I'm missing and want right now is a solid, nice running Class 3. Mine has been together for a very long time, and so it really just needs a rebuild. So everything really needs fixed, put together, and set up in a way that functions well with itself. So what I would pick is this. I'll start with the chassis. I'd love the Toyzuki V3. Ben Moore, you can just send that my way. That would be great. But in reality, that's what I would like. That's what I would be after. Aside from that, I'm not like a big give me everything that is the best. I'd put it on Wraith axles. I've found that if I run Wraith axles with a very, very narrow hub, I'm stable and narrow enough to get through the gates. I'd run four-wheel steer. I definitely would run high-tech 7950s for my servos. I think that I would like to switch to, I believe it's the like Mamba Max Pro or whatever the highest level Castle ESC is, where I could do the mixing for a channel where I could increase and decrease my drag brake at will, and then I'd run a censored motor, I don't know. I've got a couple of options that I would pick from. I'm kind of into that new Kratos moto from Three Brothers, but it wouldn't fit in my Class 2 when I went to get a new motor. I also have explored my options with Holmes and with Brood, so those are the three areas I'd look for a motor. The speed control would be my choice just because then I can dial in my drag brake. Let's talk about drive shafts, wheels, and tires. I'm a Voodoo guy. I really like the Voodoo stuff. That's why I am totally like supporting all of the things they put out there. I would run the Voodoo shafts that are just out. I've seen them all. I know all the lengths of them. I really like them. They're all my Class 2. They do a great job. Tire-wise, I would run KLRs. I like all the KLRs. There's a compound for every need, and I feel like they're a great fit. Wheel-wise, I like to try and find stuff that's unique or paint it to be unique. I really like the quality, fit, and finish of the Vanquish stuff. However, in that width and stuff, I am really, really digging the Super Shafty wheels, especially with the anodizing he has put out. Like, if money was no option, I would have a whole collection of them. Because I love the unique color combos that he's got going on. AJ Condon is doing a phenomenal job over there. If you have not seen the color combos he's putting out, you should be jumping all over those if you want something unique and cool. What else do I have? As for a body, I don't know, because that has to be unique in some way. I do have a couple of unique bodies kicking around, but I'm not sure how I could turn them into a Class 3 build. So when I go to Class 3, I'm looking for something narrow but wide enough to fit the parameters of the wheel tire thing that I've got going on. It has to be long enough that it looks okay with the wheelbase that I like to run of about 13.5 inches. And after that, it just has to look cool. And I'm sure I'd paint it some obnoxious, ridiculous color and give it a little metal work that looks good. And go from there. Transmission-wise, I'm going to do the motor forward stuff, all that good stuff, and what's going on. And then I'm trying to look at trucks and see if I'm missing anything. I obviously have to have an interior, but I think that I would attempt to go very light in that department to keep my weight down a little bit. I don't know if that covers all the parts and pieces, but those are the things that I really want. So I just got another question. Oh my gosh, why won't it show me more of the question? Alright, so this is from Joe Zaninga, so I'm going to have to guess the rest of your question. It says, I know that you love to run Class 3, but would you or have you ran Class 1 or 2? If you do, can we see, I'm guessing, can we see your trucks? I mean, I can run off camera real quick and show you. I have a truck for every class. I love them all. Big tires, small tires, whatever it is. The only reason I'm saying Class 3 is because that one's clapped out and it needs redone. So, see my rigs. I will go get them, so bear with me for about a minute. Alright, so they are dirty and in various states of disrepair from last weekend because, as I said before, last weekend didn't exactly go my way in the driving department. So this is my Class 1. It's a very standard-esque looking, just a China JK with some stuff that's going on. What electronics? I think I talked about that as well. Need hold elevator music. Perfect. So let's flip this upside down. The only unique part of this truck is the fact that I just use what I have, and so I make stuff weird. If you look at the bottom of this truck, and I don't know if you can see it very well, there are leaf springs in the rear of this rig. It has almost no flex, so everywhere it goes, at 3 wheels, it performs like garbage, and it has the turning radius of a Mack truck, but it's so fun to drive. Every line is challenging, even the smallest pebble, and it's a blast. I didn't build it for performance. I built it to have the ride height and the look that I wanted, and that's the intent that was going on there. And if you were looking to build a Class 1, doing the GCM chassis under the China JK is like the easiest way to get your scale points, because the China JK has the full interior. You get points after points after points, and the GCM The GCM skeleton chassis fits right in there. No craziness going on. Nothing hard to mount up. This is the tri-van. It has 3 wheels, chain driven underneath to the rear wheel. The tires are off of it because in order to run it in Class 0, I have to run a scale licensed tire, and Voodoo doesn't make one of those. So this truck usually has MTXs on it for the added Voodoo grip, and I really like the look of them, but they don't fit the scale license requirement for Class 0. Real quick, I'll do the other 2 trucks, and then I'll move back to questions. Kind of like my Class 1. A lot of fun to drive. Yes, that's why I like Class 1 and Class 0, and specifically the Tri-Van. If you ever see me in an event and I happen to have that truck with me, come up and most likely I'll probably let you pull the trigger and drive around a little bit. It is the most unique thing I've ever driven. It is not a performer, although it does quite well. It's just fun. Simply stated, it's just fun. And it doesn't have to do well in a competition. It just has to be fun. So I'll grab my class 2 and my class 3, go over those real quick, and then I'll move back to some questioning. Whoops. All right. Okay, so this is my class 2. It's Toyzuki chassis, Ford motor mount, Holmes Hobbies Electronics, Polar Pro stubby in there. I have almost no space. In fact, I don't have the Voodoo drive shaft on the front because I have like no space and a bad pinion angle, but this truck is slammed to the ground. Custom skid, custom links that are all bent up so that you get the best ground clearance that you possibly can. Amazingly beautiful paint job done by a local airbrush artist so that I could have the most obnoxious paint job I have ever seen. Basically, like, that's it, guys. It's just about, this truck was all about setup. Everything is as low as I can possibly get it. It's slammed to the ground. There's no space under this thing to do anything. But this truck was awesome 2 years ago and is starting to be surpassed by new technology and new innovations in the scale crawling scene, and it's making it a little harder to keep up with everybody else. Alright, and lastly, I just built this guy, did a naming contest, his name is Capone. And so this is a unique build because it is just an SCX-10 chassis under there with a GCM motor forward mount, and nothing super performance about it, but it's always seemed to hold its own reasonably well in Class 3 as long as I don't have any crazy breakage or anything like that. Again, keep questions coming if you have any. I'm going to refer back over here real quick and see if I have any other ones kicking around that I need to answer before moving on. Okay, I think I covered the majority of the questions that people sent, all with the exception of the ones that talk about sponsorship. And so sponsorship is an area that I'm reasonably passionate about. I do have sponsors. I've had sponsors for quite some time, and all of my sponsors came about organically. I have filled out exactly 2 sponsorship applications ever in the history of scale crawling, and I felt weird about both of them. I did not receive those sponsorships, probably because I filled the application out in a weird way or something, or they just, I'm not what they're looking for, which is fine. I probably won't ever fill out another sponsorship application, and here's why. I feel like if your sponsor comes to you and asks you to be on their team, they're choosing you for your merit, for your driving, for your social media, for your goodwill in the hobby, whatever the case may be. They have elected you to represent them, and they're only going to come to you if you're already running their stuff. So I don't feel shady about having a sponsor on any level. I'm already companies that I have supported the whole way through. There are people that I've been running their stuff. I had Voodoo tires on every one of my rigs before I was a sponsored driver, and I've not run anything else since. It's what I like. It supports me. It works for me. I have no problem supporting the things that I think work the best for me, and I don't have a problem with sponsorship. So there were a couple other ones over here. It says, does being sponsored mean that you get free stuff? No. I mean, sponsorship does not necessarily mean that. I suppose some people's sponsorships or some parts of sponsorship may mean that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. Without going into too many details about sponsorship, usually it's based on some kind of mutual agreement to you and the sponsor, and they help you out in some way. I'm not going to go into a bunch of details because that's confidential information between you and the sponsors, but in all reality, they will help you in some way, but you're also expected to do things in return. And so some sponsors ask that you write race reports or things of that nature. Some sponsors ask that you share posts on social media. Some sponsors ask for various different things in return. And so therefore, sponsorship isn't just, I will say your name if you give me free stuff. It's a give and a take. And if they're coming to you, you are already doing the giving, and now they just want to help support you to continue doing what you're doing. That's been my view on sponsorship all the time. What would I tell someone who wants sponsors? I would tell them that they should continue doing what they're doing, continue performing well at competitions, although that's not the biggest deal. They would continue their social media presence. They would continue building cool stuff. They would continue being a goodwill ambassador in our hobby. I would encourage them to just be an overall great person, supporting our hobby and doing things for the better. There is no better way to gain sponsorship than that. You can fill out every sponsorship application under the sun, but in the end, you're not going to be happy if all you're looking for is to place a name on your truck. Sponsored or not, if you like the decal or you like their stuff, put it on your truck. It looks cool. If I wasn't sponsored by Voodoo, the giant white Voodoo sticker would still be across the hood of this Jeep because I run Voodoo tires, and I think the sticker's cool. You should be, I think, and this is why I've always asked this question of other people because there's so many things out there in the hobby. I think you should do you, and if sponsorship's going to happen, it will come to you. I'm not knocking anybody who fills out a sponsorship application. Definitely not knocking sponsors who ask you to fill out a sponsorship application in any stretch of the imagination, because if that would be the easiest way to select candidates for sure. But I highly recommend just doing you, and if you're going to be sponsored, fate will bring it your way. Or it might not, and that's cool too, because being sponsored isn't the end-all be-all. It's amazing. It's awesome. I love pairing up with the people who I run their stuff and I want to continue supporting. I love the support that they then give me, and it is a great give and take. Sponsor yourself. Yes, Dion, you sponsored yourself, and man alive, do you build some cool stuff. Oh my gosh. I wish I could paint half as good as you can build all the other stuff. Alright, guys, I believe, out of like written down questions, other than going over and answering all the ones that I ask people every week. But if you've watched all the Live at 945s, you would know that more than likely I have answered all of those questions somewhere along the line, other than to talk about sponsorship. Because I definitely have a very, yes, and I definitely have had a very unique view and a way to stand on that, and I don't have any desire to change that. I genuinely appreciate the support that I get from my sponsors, and I will continue rocking their stuff while it works for me, and I can continue to stand behind their stuff and help them as well. It's a great joint effort. So support the products I love, I pay retail, and love it. Absolutely. My son just got Voodoos, and I bought them off of RC Addict. I didn't go through the Voodoo webpage. I didn't do any sponsorship stuff for those tires. Alright guys, there are 23 of you on here still. Any questions for me before I kind of close things out and end this show? Next week I do not have... Keep doing you. Thank you, Dion. I don't have anybody who is lined up for sure for next week. I have a lot of people in my mind to send some messages out to. However, let's be real, it is the first week of school, and 1 week turnaround time is a quick amount of time to get people who want to be on the show. So I'll send some messages out there. If you have an interest or you know someone who should be on, shoot me that message. Give me that info. I like to highlight people, and I like to support the people in this hobby and show exactly what's going on. I like the hashtag JustBeYou. That's great. Thank me for what I do. Thank you for tuning in and checking it out. Take a week off, buddy? Probably not. I probably won't take a week off because ultimately... as much as it is work to do this, I genuinely enjoy talking to everybody and having what's going on in here. Definitely good seeing you too, Todd, last weekend, and everybody else I saw last weekend. Great show, nice change up. Thank you, I appreciate it. I wasn't sure how people would go with that because I don't know if anybody wanted to hear from me. I'd rather hear from the other people than myself. Thanks, man. Jack was great. Just got into the TrueScale page. TrueScale is awesome. You're going to love it there. If you haven't been on the TrueScale page, oh my gosh, go check it out. There, you think that the people I talk to, scale build, we don't. There are people from all over the world. We begin to scratch the surface here. Great show. Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank every one of you for tuning in. I thank you all by name, but I can't see all your names. When you going to be interviewed? I was semi-interviewed. I guess I could be interviewed in the future. I need someone that wants to do it. Definitely good times tonight. Thank you. It was good times for me too. I can be long-winded and I tend to like to talk about myself, but I get to do that all day to kids who are a captive audience and they can't leave. So, that's always a good time too. Alright, so without further ado, I'm going to kind of end this thing. Please go and check out all of my social media stuff. VanOrd Customs on Facebook, VanOrd Customs on Instagram. I think it's an underscore in there. Check out my YouTube, and please, please, please subscribe over on YouTube. And I know that that sounds like I'm begging you to go there and do it, but here's the real deal. I need to get YouTube moving so that there's a little more drive from me to begin putting out some cool stuff over there. I've started a little bit, and I'm working on ramping up my video editing and all of those things so that I can begin to putting some cool content over there. But at the moment, I do not have very many subscribers, and it feels like I'm doing it for me. So if you're interested at all, shoot yourself over there and check it out. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you, and I genuinely appreciate your view. And last but not least, please go check out the website. Pay attention over there. I do have things coming down the line. I haven't changed anything in a long time. School year just started, so it's going to be a little bit. But there's some cool stuff coming, guys. And you should be getting ready to do it. So, getting ready to pay attention. What if you already do subscribe to me? Subscribe again. No, I'm just joking. Have a great night, Adam. Thank you. Have a great night as well. So, as always... Thank you guys for tuning in. If it wasn't for you on the other end of this, it would be me just talking to my phone, and no one would want to watch that. So thank you for tuning in, providing me with some questions, providing me with feedback, and checking out all of these awesome people in the hobby. I will continue bringing people over to highlight so that I can show just how amazing our hobby is and what's out there, because there are so many incredibly talented people, and I love showing that off. My last but not least big shout out is to anyone who stopped by in person at East Coast Scale Challenge. I saw all of your faces. I appreciated each and every one of you, and you are not forgotten. I appreciate all of that. Seeing the faces of all of you show up, walk into that pavilion and hang out just to listen to me talk to some other people who were also at that event really puts the whole thing in perspective. It's a little different when I just talk to my phone in my basement. So thank you all, each and every one of you, and thank all of you guys for tuning in. And I will catch you guys hopefully next week, but if not, the week after that, I do have a great guest lined up that you are not going to want to miss because he is incredibly talented, and I can't wait to interview him. So I'll talk to you guys all next week, hopefully, on Live at 9:45. Have a good night, and I'll catch you then.